What's going on, Alice? How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Just getting started with the day, working with Balanced and chatting with you. So enjoying the morning.
What a privilege. I'm so grateful to get to chat with you. Alice, for those who don't know, is an incredible person, such an amazing foodie, like an incredible chef, like
Oh,
top tier chef. But also, we work together at Balance. So, you want to introduce yourself?
I mean, you are so sweet. My name is Alice Müller-Coleman, and I am the development manager here at Balance. So anything fundraising typically goes through me, and I have the easy job. I just get to hype up my coworkers because they're great at what they do.
I know they do all the hard work and we just get to talk about it.
I know we're very lucky. Thanks for being so smart, guys. If you're
I
listening.
know. And yeah, you recently were part of our Focus on Fiber video series, right?
Yeah, not too long ago. It was a really wonderful and fun project, and I was very lucky to participate in it.
And the food that you were serving up, and it looked so good. So, like, when you were making the fiber video series,
Yes.
which you can find on YouTube,
Yeah.
what part of it was like simply just like eating and trying out all the food you were cooking versus like actually like talking about fiber and all the benefits and whatnot? Because I think I would get really distracted by just all the great food that you were preparing.
You know, it was like a multi-month prep, to be honest, because it was a team effort. There was so much research that went into it, making sure there was a variety of different viewpoints and standpoints, and making sure that we presented a bunch of facts that were evidence based and that we had a doctor's perspective, that we really were on the side of nutrition science on top of being able to present something that was beautiful. So that means like bringing on a video contractor, figuring out what types of recipes we want to incorporate, things that are approachable by people at home, because it's fun to make something yummy, and if you have never heard of an ingredient, you're not going to be able to really incorporate that as easily. In terms of the actual production of the video series, it was like a 2-day production with Taylor O'Sullivan. Big shout out to her. She's fantastic as an artist and human, as well as a person named Ryan who made everything look pretty and sound nice. So it was truly all hands on deck. And then I guess I also should shout out Conrad for helping. And we did also have a wonderful video editor. But in terms of how much eating happened, quite a bit of eating. Everyone was sent home with food. Everyone got to nibble throughout the day. Food is my love language. So wanted to make sure that everyone felt good and enjoyed nutritious and delicious things.
Well, that sounds amazing. And for those who don't know, Conrad is Alice's new husband,
Yep.
fresh
First
husband.
thing.
Yeah, so big congrats on that. It was so cool getting to see all the incredible food in your wedding photos. What were some of your favorite foods that you had at your wedding?
Oh, yeah. So, backtracked and fun fact on our first date, apparently I told him that my former neighbor was going to be my vegan wedding caterer because he just happens to be a vegan wedding caterer. So, weird thing to drop on a first date when you're meeting a random person. And that came to life. Kyle from the garden is exceptional. He runs this business now. He's like fully at the helm. Before, he also ran it with his wife Ashley. They are um, parents to wonderful twin girls who also live a plant-based life, and they're just amazing. So things that were on the menu, we had so many things. And let's see, what did we have? We had a delicious curry. We had glass noodles with like spring veggies because it was a May Day wedding, May 1st. We had mango chutney. We had Acme bread, which is my favorite Bay Area bread. Some of the sweetest seasonal strawberries made it onto the fruit and veggie platter, which was amazing. And then one thing that I got really excited by, they have a really special way of preparing tofu. And so they love making the most skeptical, like aunt or uncle, enjoy tofu, and they did. They really did. My aunt went back for thirds, and my cousin said it tasted like pork. So,
Wow.
but my favorite thing, needless to say, um, I was so lucky. Kyle put together a dairy-free, egg-free kransekage, which is a Norwegian cookie, essentially. That was one of my childhood favorites. And so that was one of our two wedding desserts. Three wedding desserts. We also had a chocolate chip pecan cookie and a strawberry rhubarb cheesecake bite.
Oh my gosh. I'm
Yeah,
like salivating thinking of all that
there's
because
so much goodness.
oh my goodness. And what a treat to be able to recreate, such a delicacy from your childhood.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
because you're from Norway, right?
My mom is, yeah. So I'm from LA, but my mom's from Norway. So I'm very lucky to be influenced by multiple cultures.
Totally. And being able to represent that at such a special day and to be able to, one, celebrate your unity just together with Conrad and then through the, our plates and sharing a meal together. It's such a special moment. And when you mentioned earlier about Taylor being an incredible chef, you all are both featured in our fiber rich meal guide.
Heck yeah, we
Yeah?
are.
Yeah, so Balance put out a fiber rich meal guide. This is a one stop shop for like 36 incredible recipes, so much good stuff in it. And you have a Maui inspired kale salad in there,
Yes.
right? Did that make it on the wedding menu?
Not on the menu, but Kyle did put together a mango chutney, which we were so busy taking pictures I didn't get to have. So next time we head up to the Bay, I'm gonna have him recreate it. But the Maui inspired kale salad, it's so yummy, so easy. It has like the natural sweetness from the tropical fruit, whether you opt for like mango or papaya, and just the secret for kale, massage that, whether it's with a lemon juice or with the olive oil, just to like break down some of the more fibrous components of the greens and incorporate tons of other flavors. But it just like really lets the natural flavor shine.
Yeah, I was eating kale for the longest time without massaging it. And then I'd heard people talk about it. I'm like, I'm not massaging my kale. Like, I'm not doing that. And then I did finally, and I was like, oh my gosh, this completely changes the texture of it. It completely unlocks the taste
Yeah.
of it. So, like there's all different types of kale you might get, but when you find a good one, it's like synergized and it's exponentially better after the massage. So, your Maui inspired kale salad was such a treat to try out when I was doing all of like the recipe creation. And I think I even got to make Taylor's recipe as
Oh,
well. She had the buffalo chickpeas, right?
no. So that was, let's see, who was that? Oh, why am I blanking on her name?
Let's see.
So the buffalo chickpeas were from Jacqueline Rosen. That is
Okay.
their fan favorite. Taylor's recipe was the spring rolls. Yeah,
Yeah, the
they're
fiber rich
so
spring
good.
rolls right here, which actually we ended up making for some friends that we had come over.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah. So our kids go to school together and we're like, just we hit it off, but just as you do with life, you get busy and you just never find time to hang out with people you want to hang out with. So
Yep.
finally I'm like, y'all got to come over. I'm gonna make an awesome treat. It was a pretty hot day during the summer, so I'm like, what's like a cool refreshing dish that I could make? And I landed on the fiber rich spring rolls from
Yeah,
our fiber guide.
they're so
So, and actually, I messaged Taylor over on Instagram because we shouted out the recipe and put it on there. So you can find it there. You can also go to the Balance website and / fiber rich meal guide, and it's very easy to find and get all of these recipes totally for free. But I messaged Taylor and I was like, the spring rolls were an absolute hit. They're so good.
they're so delicious. I mean, we are peanut sauce fiends. So anything with peanut sauce, anything with we add in the marinated tofu. Yeah, we love a good fresh roll.
Same. And that's the coolest thing about this like fiber rich meal guide that we put out. And it was a big team effort from everyone at Balance. Like it was months in the making, incredibly generous for all of the recipe contributors to share this and such a gift to create. But the diversity of food, you mentioned like, having that Norwegian influence and having like diverse culture, and that inspires our food choices, and it inspires our food choices all across the United States as we're thinking about like, what do we serve in our institutions? What do we have in our plates at home? How is it shifting based on a variety of factors? And I'm really happy that we had so much diverse food choices in our meal guide.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think that's like one of the components about school lunch, right? A lot of the times, food service directors and their teams, they want to make sure that the foods that they're serving are culturally relevant to their students. And we are so privileged to live in a place that has a lot of different cultures represented. And so it would just be a huge loss for us not to learn and enjoy and taste the delicious foods from across the world.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And as we're working with culinary teams to craft resources, we want to know, like, what's the demographic look like at your school, and what are your kids used to eating at home, and let's try to make sure that that representation is on the menu, and developing like taste tests for the students so that they can give feedback and figure out what recipes work. And that's something that I think our donors really value among the work that we do, because we do take that extra consideration to not only provide excellent resources, training, access to a myriad of fiber rich options through our plant-based vendor directory, but also we take that human element into consideration. And has that been feedback that you've heard from our donors?
Yeah. I mean, I think what they really love about our team is that we are very human centric. Like, not only do we have people basically from the inception of our organization and people just kind of stay here forever, which is lovely. But we really, just as a team, genuinely care about people, whether it's the students, whether it's the food service teams, whether it's the parents, and other advocates in their communities. And so, like, we really do take like a listening first approach, and we find really smart strategic solutions for what people and communities are going through, and we try to make those resources as readily as available as possible, which is why we need you, because without a very strategic communications program, we need to get those eyeballs on things. And we also do collaborate with a bunch of other organizations, both externally and behind the scenes, to make sure that those resources are available in various communities, just across the country and across the world.
Yeah, and just meeting people where they are, because we have these resources, we have this team of experts who can help in whatever way and help overcome whatever barrier school districts are facing when it comes to increasing nutrition security on their menus. We do a ton of fiber awareness on our social media pages so that folks know like how much fiber's in an apricot. Like,
Yeah.
what are the top 10 fiber rich foods, like putting out all these like trendy just relatable videos like on social media, on TikTok, Instagram. But then when it comes to say like LinkedIn, where food service professionals are, really highlighting the breadth of professional resources that we have that can provide support. Like, what's off the top of my head? Like, we had our fiber white paper that Maddie and I were talking about on the last episode. And that resource just lays down the foundation for the scientific background on what would be good nutrition policy if we are taking fiber into consideration. We have sample menus. We have like plans for quote unquote generic city, where we talk about, what would implementing more fiber rich foods look like and how would we go about doing that. We can advocate with the taste tests and everything. And Michelle Salatan, who's our institutional support manager, is just such an expert. Like, our institutional support team really, really is helpful. So if anyone out there is listening and curious about this, definitely don't hesitate to reach out, check out our resources that are on our website. And we've built up an incredible repertoire of resources over the last, 10 years that Balance has been in existence. Like, what are we, 8, 9? I've been with Balance for just over a year now, but you've been here much longer than I have.
I've been here for 4 years. So we actually started in 2017. So we're year 8 right now. And our strategy has like shifted dramatically throughout that time, since we've had like a global pandemic. And just like the architecture of school food has shifted so many times throughout those years. And so one thing that I really pride myself on and our organization on is just like our ability to make those strategic shifts when necessary. Because, at the inception of the organization, there were a lot more pressure campaigns and whatnot, but taking into consideration the pandemic and global supply chain issues, we really needed to provide more resources and assistance, which totally shifted our tone and our relationship with food service teams across the country. And so instead of coming at it from more of an adversarial approach, we really come at it from like a peer approach where we're trying to set them up for success. And so that's where bringing in our plant-based vendor directory, balanced lunch tray, our USDA dietitian approved institutional recipe database, those resources are so incredibly important because we're trying to set people up for success and work with, work alongside them. And so our strategy has shifted, and getting back to the Focus on Fiber initiative a few years back when we identified that fiber was the root cause of a lot of issues and it's the key nutrient that 97% of all children are deficient in, we really kind of realized that fiber is what we should be focusing on, hence the Focus on Fiber campaign. We wanted to take a USDA angle, a pressure campaign to make sure that they incorporate a minimum fiber requirement. And that's where Camille and Maddie's expertise is really incredible. For the fiber white paper, they were really able to identify 2 different approaches to increase fiber in students' everyday lives. And so there's 2 really incredible directives in there for people to take a look at. And then one thing that we identified was that there wasn't a big conversation around fiber, just in terms of the general public. Everyone's talking about protein, but why not fiber? And so that's when we partnered with Johns Hopkins, Bloomberg American Health Initiative, and we were able to set the foundation for the fiber awareness campaign.
Yeah, and that's a stat that really shocked me, that it's, because I never really thought about fiber growing up. It wasn't really anything like, the first time I really heard about fiber was like when fiber internet was popping off, and
Oh,
like that was like the new hype thing, because very much into tech,
yeah,
and I just didn't even think about it. And this is coming from someone who literally studied plant biology and plant
yeah,
physiology. Like that's how disconnected fiber is for me in particular. And I think for people who aren't even considering it as a day-to-day nutrient that has a tremendous amount of benefits, and we see all of these positive health outcomes correlated with increased dietary fiber consumption. The fact that over 90% of people are fiber deficient absolutely blew my mind. So the Focus on Fiber series I thought was really instrumental at laying out all the foundational information so that people could get that. And just so thankful to, John Hopkins, Bloomberg American Health Initiative for hooking it up and allowing us to do that work.
absolutely. And what is really incredible too is like that really fueled our Fiber Rich Meal Guide project, which was born as a side project um, from that initiative. And so what's so special about the Fiber Rich Meal Guide is it really presents an opportunity for individuals and their families to incorporate a more fiber forward diet at home, whether that's beginning with like once a week meals or daily meals. And my little hack, I love to like cook once, eat twice or thrice. But in terms of like the fiber awareness arm of things, and like how fiber has become the through line of all of our projects, we really do advocate for institutional menu change, because at the heart of what Balance does, our theory of change is that food environments are the top determiner when it comes to food choice. So we need to manufacture and make sure that those food choices, and healthy food choices at that are rich in fiber, that are not focused on like the least healthy things, and are full of all the antioxidants, the fiber, the health promoting benefits, that those are at the forefront of institutional menus. So those are going to be featured at schools, at hospitals, at offices, anywhere where, people are eating at scale. And so we are grateful to now have a resource that promotes eating well at home to support what we do, which is eating well everywhere we go.
Yeah, and the Fiber Rich Meal Guide is sweet. We've got a PDF copy just available. You can have it
Great.
bookmarked to your home screen. You can pull up all the recipes quick and easy.
Yeah,
And I really like what you talked about food environment, because that is so essential to our work. And
totally.
what food is available around us really matters. Like I remember growing up in school, and just the options just weren't there.
Oh, yeah.
Like in elementary school in particular, how I would get food. I don't know. I'm curious to hear your perspective and like what your experience was. But we would get 2 options. It was like, do you want pizza or do you want chicken nuggets? And
Yeah.
then they come and they give you a stamp on your hand. So
Okay.
like it's like a stamp of 1 or a 2. And then around lunchtime, this was all in the morning. They like
Okay.
come around classroom to classroom, so they stamp your hand. And then around lunchtime, one, you better just hope your stamp didn't wash off because then they're going to be horribly confused.
Yeah.
Two, um, you just go up, you show your stamp, and that's it. And that was like
That's it.
the food choice that was available. And this was a public school in Metro Detroit.
Yep.
And while my food choices got a little bit more expansive as I went into middle school and into high school, the food itself was not the most healthy. It was like, and I referenced this, in the past, but Bosco sticks and chicken tenders and pizza and French fries, like
Mhm.
all these fried foods, or they were frozen foods that were reheated. They were super salty, just pretty nutrient poor, and they got calories in, so like I was getting enough calories,
Yeah.
but that nutrition wasn't there. And if we're trying to empower folks to, one, have a diversity of food choices, to have positive health habits and food choice habits for the rest of their life, how can we expect them to learn and relearn how to eat better as they go on? But like, what was your school food situation like?
Yeah. So, I mean, so much was coming up for me as you were talking about your history in that. Um, and one thing when I joined Balance that I realized is everyone has a school lunch story. If you grew up, you had to eat, and typically in most countries, you're getting fed at school. Hopefully if you're lucky. So for my school lunch story, I did participate in school lunch, especially in elementary school. And I believe that I was part of the free or reduced price school lunches. I can't remember all the details because it was a long time ago. And that's not something that like you talk about with your parents when you're a little kid. And I was vegetarian at that time. So I opted for maybe like the least worst offenders, depending on what was on the menu. Because I remember there were like, as you're saying, lots of chicken nuggets, lots of like sloppy joes, lots of just things that weren't really discernible. But I do remember liking like the cheese pizza squares. And I was lucky. I grew up in Los Angeles. LA is kind of like a food conscious environment and as it stands. And so we did have like semi regular, farmers market baked potato bars. Would we load those up with butter and sour cream and green onions? Yeah. But then, and we did also have a salad bar. So that was something that I remember choosing a lot of the time, especially when the other hot lunch options were like less desirable. But yeah, and then, going into middle school, like I remember the local fast food establishments being able to sell school or sell food in schools. Like there were I think it was like the Jack in the Box curly fries and the Papa John's pizza and like all these things that people would line up for. And it's like, how do you have a direct like access to create all these consumers now that I'm like on the other side of it? At school, and how are you going to learn properly if you're in a food coma and you're not fueling efficiently? So I was lucky, as time, my mom, she's very health conscious. Like I developed a palate early on. That is not the case for a lot. And like placing that responsibility on the parent or on the individual is like extremely hard. And there's so many people whose palates are limited and they don't like a lot of fruits and vegetables or legumes and grains just because they didn't have that exposure at a young age. And I don't know about you, Chris, but at my elementary school, like once a year, they would do kind of like a health check for the students. Did you have that?
Tell me more about what a health check means, and I might be able
Yeah.
to
No,
concur.
like, I remember they would check like, I remember even, like, in elementary school, they had people come in to, like, help check the students' like, blood pressure and cholesterol and check to see if people were at risk for, like, scoliosis and stuff, and, I mean, I remember my, like, elementary school best friend, her cholesterol numbers were, like, skyrocketing, and she must have been, like, 11 years old, and how much of that is because of what was on the menu?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting you point that out, and, not to diminish from that, but I only remember them checking us for lice. Like, that was the big thing that they checked for us on the elementary school kids.
Knock on
But I
wood,
don't.
I avoided that.
Right? Yeah, I never had lice, but, Also never had high cholesterol related to food. I probably didn't know about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's it's one of those things that unless if it's directly impacting you or you're going for a checkup, you don't know. And it's, you know, I would say probably, I am not a medical professional. I am a fundraiser, but it's a silent killer if you can't see what's going on the inside. And so much of what we put into our bodies is directly related to diet related diseases, such as type 2 diabetes, such as hypertension, heart disease, heart attacks, strokes, some types of cancers. And so if we're setting the foundation at a young age with what we're putting in our body, we can either be set up for success or we can be set up for disaster. And what we're trying to do at Balance is make sure that as many students as possible are set up for healthy lives at the forefront of their lives.
Yeah, and it's absolutely wild because rates of diabetes in children, like type 2 diabetes, have doubled in the last 2 decades. So our food environments, no doubt, have an impact on that. And while, I didn't get particularly like checked for health, it was never even a concern for me because I thought like I grew up, I played sports, I was in the street playing hockey every day. Um, and it just never occurred to me that like the food environment that I was in, because I was like 8,
Yeah.
had such an impact on my well-being. But I would even notice, like, depending on what I eat, feeling sluggish during hockey, or like if we had like a super, let's say, carb heavy or processed food heavy meal, I would feel really sleepy, especially in high school when kids are waking up early, they're set to have attention all day long. And when they get that meal, it's like, okay, great. Here's a break from my brain. Let me get some good food in. And then I'm having trouble keeping my eyes open in math class
Yeah.
because I just didn't get a good meal.
Yeah. I mean,
And just,
I played softball in high school, and it was interesting because I always thought that I could not eat before playing a game. And I'm sure there's like something to it, just like the timing of a meal before exerting a lot of energy. But if I think about it, the types of foods that were served at my high school, it was sausage English muffins, chocolate chip cookies, chicken nuggets, french fries, chips, and other packaged foods. Like there was nothing fresh. I don't recall a single fruit or vegetable that was highlighted on anything. Like no wonder I felt like crap when I would try to eat before playing a game. Oh, and bagels and cream cheese, which yeah. It does not set you up to be a good student, to be a good athlete, across the board.
yeah, yeah, I've never really like considered or thought about it until now, actually, just like thinking about it. And that kind of just highlights the abstract way that food environments impact our lives in ways that you don't even really think about until you take a moment to consider it. And what's really, really great about our work is that we not only have that institutional support element where we're talking with food service directors and crafting food environments, because the food service directors really care about these kids. Like
Yeah.
they want the kids to have the best possible chance of success. They take incredible pride in serving up these meals and knowing that like they're helping out their community. It's amazing to see what these food service directors and cafeteria teams are doing. So just like huge shout out to them. But then there's also like the public awareness element about it.
Mhm.
And how do you navigate highlighting those different elements of our work, when you're talking to prospective donors at all levels, when we're crafting, donation solicitations and stuff like that? Like, what are some of the stories and some of the thoughts that you like to share in those from those moments?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of varies because like with anyone, everyone has like a different motivator, right? There are going to be people that want to see capacity building. And so the way that we collaborate with other organizations to make sure that resources are widely available with limited restrictions, right? Like we try to, or we do put out all of our resources for free. We historically have avoided list builds because we just wanted to make sure that there would be as few barriers to people downloading materials as possible. We work with other organizations and, rebrand our guides under their names just to make sure that we can hit other audiences, because we really just want to make sure that as many people as possible get to be impacted by the work that we are doing. And so I'd say positive relationships is something that a lot of donors and funders like really do care about. And then there's the concerned parent or former student or current student who cares a lot about advocacy. Maybe they have had the life experience where they've advocated for change on some level in some institution, whether it's nutrition related or not. And so just seeing like what the people powered element of our work really does. And so I think it's really exciting because right now our advocacy program is evolving and we're creating modules and like self-learning resources for more advocates to have access. And, of course, we're going to continue providing that one-on-one coaching and support. And then there's like it's so exciting to see our institutional support program grow. It like hiring Michelle a few years ago, like was it just infused so much energy and life and momentum and vitality into the program, and it's really like taken shape post COVID. And what's so special about Michelle is Michelle has a school nutrition background. Like she can walk into a room and speak to food service folks as their peer because she's had that experience. And so I think it's really important to have that approach and to empower people, because like you were talking about, like these people are doing the hard work. They're feeding the next generation of kids. And I mean, they're really unsung heroes. Their jobs are hard. There's so many infrastructure issues, financial issues. Like they get, even for reimbursable school lunch, it's like less than 450, and that's supposed to pay for ingredients and labor and tools and signage and marketing resources to make sure that there's high participation rates in these schools. I mean, feeding anyone for 450 is hard.
Yeah, yeah, borderline impossible.
Borderline impossible. And so like, really empowering the community that we are working with, I think is like the thing that really sets us apart. And excites donors as well, because they understand like that, it's not an us versus them mentality. We have to work together. Um, and, when we're talking about making huge impact at scale, making institutional changes is a much more impactful way of doing things. If we take a look at like our More Plants on Plates campaign that we did in conjunction with a marketing firm and a philanthropy foundation, as well as, through our partner org, Plant-Based School Collaborative. When we look through our work as part of More Plants on Plates Illinois, getting the message out and making sure that more than 1,000 school districts were represented in the ask. So, if we're really like building that momentum for plant-based school lunch requests, then we're providing those resources to make sure that the food service teams are set up for success, whether that's through the guides, whether that's through the plant-based vendor directory, setting them up with samples and contracts, setting them up with taste tests and marketing materials to get student buy-in. Like we've really thought about it. And when I say we, I'm doing a very generous we, because I am not the person doing that work. No, it's like full disclosure. But as an organization, like we're really like trying to set everyone up for success where they're at. And then just seeing like the Illinois plant-based pilot grant program last year, where we worked with 8 school districts across the state of Illinois, which resulted in over 200,000 plant-based school meals just in a short duration of time for this school year. So seeing the scale of work with the limited resources that we have, and just like the best team ever. Truly, like I cannot imagine a better team to be doing this work with. I'm really proud of Balanced, and our funders are too.
Yeah, I'm ultra proud of Balance as well. And for those who don't know, maybe you want to share a little bit about the background on More Plants on Plates, like maybe share
Yeah,
what that is and sort of
absolutely.
like how Balance got involved in it and what that process was like a little bit more.
Okay, sure. Okay, so More Plants and Plates, Illinois was born in response to the passing of a law, Illinois 4089, which was a bill that was presented by a lawmaker in Illinois. The lawmaker had a vegetarian son and he wanted his kid to be able to eat at school. It was as simple of that as that. And so that passed August the year before last. And so we recognized that there was a huge opportunity for change and for impact because there was really no organization that was working on this to push things forward. And there was going to be a huge gap, right? Like all these food service teams were going to be flooded by requests, hopefully, by students that now had expanded menu options available for them so that they could eat healthier things at school. And one, we wanted to streamline the process for them to receive requests. We wanted to make sure that students and their families understood that this law had passed and there were, as I mentioned, expanded menu options available to them and that they could opt in for a plant based school lunch at school. And there was with a huge influx there was going to be a lot of training and education and resources that needed to be delivered to these teams who were suddenly responsible with like very little resources to provide expanded menu options. And so we co-created the plant-based school lunch collaborative. We worked alongside a philanthropist foundation as well as a marketing firm to push out More Plants on Plates Illinois, which was a public awareness campaign about this law that passed to get students and their families to request plant-based school lunches in Illinois. And it was wildly successful. It's really like set a huge strategic shift in our work. Our hands-on support for institutional or our institutional support team has really just hit the ground running and evolved and grown because of this initiative. We recognize like how impactful that program is, and so we're continuing to invest more resources. And it's really exciting because the food service teams are getting the support that they need. It includes like a small stipend for plant-based ingredients. We are able to set them up with contracts and taste tests from various plant-based product companies so that they can test things out like chickpea curries or lentil bolognese. And the students are really benefiting from it as well. They're excited about having these tasty, delicious, healthy items available.
All of that work with More Plants on Plates, that sort of evolved into the pilot program,
Yes.
right? And recognizing the need for training, ingredients, sample testings, maybe some equipment.
Yeah.
That sort of was the initial seed round of the pilot program, which then has now started another round, which started like what, this week, last week? I think it's
So
in.
it started in June and it was kicked off, I believe, on June 30th with a webinar series led by Michelle and her team. And so it's really exciting. We have expanded our plant-based cohort. We have now we have some schools that participated in the first round, as well as additional schools in Illinois and Michigan. So we are scaling that project and the cohort across to new regions, which is really exciting. The thing that's so special about this is it is scalable, it is replicable, it is something that drives a huge amount of impact with fairly limited resources. If you think about it, with like the ROI that we can really achieve through providing this type of support to food service teams is huge. Like because they're providing meals at scale. The thing about the plant-based cohort that's really exciting is that we are expanding to new regions. We have schools that are participating in Illinois and in Michigan. We have schools that participated in the last round, as well as additional schools. And the thing that's really exciting about it is it's both replicable and scalable. Like, with over 75% of K through 12 schools being self-op, meaning they're not working through a Sodexo or an Aramark or any other food service provider, like there is so much need. Like, we're not going to be getting the type of results without providing support for those teams.
And the impact that you highlight is phenomenal because through More Plants on Plates Illinois and just the amount of success that it has garnished, just the amount of success that it has garnered. Um, we're like 30% of all school districts in Illinois submitted requests for plant-based meals, right?
Yeah, the participation was huge. It was a really successful campaign. It resulted in over 1,000 participant signups, reflecting over 30% of all school districts in Illinois. Um, it was hugely successful.
So, with the immense amount of success that More Plants on Plates has had, getting into 30% of school districts across the state of Illinois, fielding thousands of requests, I bet there's even more interest for the Illinois grant program based on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was really like a wonderful case study. So we launched the Illinois Plant Based Grant Program, the pilot program. After launching More Plants on Plates, Illinois, and it was wildly successful. We worked with 8 schools over a 10-week period, providing education, hands-on support, training, and a small stipend for plant-based products and ingredients. And it's, over the course of the 2024 to 2025 school year alone, it's resulting in more than 200,000 plant-based meals. There was one school district that shifted to 75% plant-based meals, and one even
Wow.
transitioned 100%. Granted, it was a smaller school, but that's the type of win you don't really see happening. And that's what happens when you empower folks, empower teams, and work together. It's really collaborative, and it's so exciting too, just because like we're in our second iteration of the cohort program, and we've expanded now from Illinois and into Michigan. This work is huge. It's scalable, it's replicable, and we're very excited to see it go the distance.
Yeah, and what's really nice about the upon request legislation, and something that I often like to mention, is that it's like a demand side process. Because schools might get discouraged if they do a supply side, meaning they, hear about all the benefits and all the positive health outcomes associated with high fiber meals, and they put some time, money, energy into crafting a bunch of plant-based meals, and it just isn't successful because they hadn't done all the proper prep and giving students a heads up and laying the marketing materials and doing taste tests and making sure it was things that the kids actually wanted. So
Yeah.
they might serve it and then nobody chooses it because there wasn't those interventions needed to allow them to be successful. So it becomes a one and done thing and they just go back to the status quo. Whereas with More Plants on Plates and an upon request situation, they know exactly how much they're looking to get. They can reduce food waste. They can maximize the benefit to the students. The students' voices are heard. The parents feel happy. The lunch teams get to know that the meals that they're putting out are super high quality and nutrient dense. And it seems like a really incredible situation for all parties included.
Yeah, and I think one thing to consider too about the upon request legislation is that it is not restricting options, it's just expanding options. Like there's a lot of students that haven't been able to participate in school lunch and breakfast because they haven't had options that are suitable to their dietary preferences or needs. And so what, like you said, showing the demand, but then also creating a vehicle so that people can get the type of meals that they need. Like it directly feeds into our theory of change, changing food environments, changing food systems to make sure that people have the opportunity to choose the healthier options. And it's something that, like, there's so many components that I never would have thought about, for younger students in particular. Like, you want to create like a menu item that has a fun name, you know, like get buy-in. You don't want to slap a label or a name on there that's just going to create an aversion. You know, make it something fun. You have a young daughter, like you said, you know, bubbly water is sparkly water. You know, finding ways to make it exciting for them, focusing on presentation, focusing on the taste test so that they feel like they, you know, are part of like the special team, special club that gets to be participating in the change that's happening. Making food fun. And like total side note, I remember I was at a conference a few years ago, and there was this mother daughter duo that were in attendance. The daughter was working as a chef for UC Berkeley. It seemed really inspiring. And then her mom was a local teacher. And one of the things that she did on her own accord was she would, you know, bring fruit and vegetable samples throughout the school year so that kids had the opportunity to try new types of produce and develop their palates. Like, that is so cool. We need more people like her, and we need to support them.
Yeah, I completely agree. And having the access to try different things is an element that I think is also really important because we get so set in our ways. Our, menus are set often for schools years in advance. Like contracts with suppliers can be, 1, 3, 5 year contracts. So you're
Wild.
kind of like locked into these menu options. And
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier, like allowing the potential for like a vegan bolognese or allowing the potential for a lentil bolognese. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Cool. I got it. I always get that word messed up. But
I have a
like,
lot of this.
like frankly, I'd never even had lentils until I was like in my 20s. Like
Really?
never even I didn't even know what a lentil
I
was.
had a
Like I'm
really, oh, that's wild. I had a friend.
it is wild. Yeah, but I just had no clue. It wasn't just like it wasn't a part of what my family ate growing up. It wasn't a
Yeah,
part of what I saw on plates around me.
I had a friend who lived a block away, and fun fact, I mostly hung out with her because her mom made the best Indian food I've ever had. And, you know, I'm pretty sure that was the impetus for me discovering lentils at an early age, being exposed to it.
Yeah, the closest thing to any like, other cuisine was like getting Chinese food and renting a Blockbuster movie combo because where I grew up, there was a Blockbuster right next to the Chinese food place. So we
Yeah,
would order our Chinese food, go pick out a movie or a video game or whatever. And by the time we were done in Blockbuster, ready to go. And that was like a pretty Friday night staple. But having a diversity of choices, that was like as diverse as we really got compared to like the standard American diet.
for sure. And, I I really have to like admit the reason why I'm such a good eater, and I say good in many ways. Like I am a healthy eater, but I'm also like I eat food. I eat a lot of food. I eat a diverse range of food, with the exception of smoky flavors and mushrooms and certain textures. Like game on, and I really have to credit my mom because what she would do was when I was a kid, we would go to the local health food store and she would kind of let me just like peruse the produce section, and she'd say like, oh, we can get anything you want, which, luxury to say, but also I'm an only child, so she had one kid to feed. That is not something that would be possible in large families. And because of that, when I'm choosing the random piece of fruit or vegetable, like it was my choice. I have a vested interest in liking that thing. And so like my palate was like pretty diverse from a young age.
Yeah, what were some of your go-tos? Like if you had that option, like you get to pick whatever you want, Alice. The
Oh.
the produce section is yours to choose from. What are you picking?
Oh, it just depends on whatever is seasonal because like honestly, whatever's in season and like perfectly ripe is what's going to be best. Like, and I have this conversation with people all the time. Like, you know, if you love strawberries and you get an out of season strawberry, the flavor's not going to be there. What is the point? And that's where like frozen, like frozen produce really comes into play too. Like buy some peak summer strawberries, get them in the freezer. You have like a little haul for, for your smoothies for a while. Right now it's summer. It's my favorite like eating time of year because you have all the stone fruit like fun fact, when you're selecting a piece of stone fruit, you really want to look for like all the speckles, all the little spots on a piece of fruit that like indicates that other creatures also thought they, smell delicious, and
Yeah.
something that has like a nice softness. But yeah, like give me white nectarines, give me nectaplums, give me pluots, give me, you talked about the apricot earlier today and on your most recent like focus on fiber video, but it really just it just depends on what is in season. I mean, my favorite fruits, once more, stone fruits, figs, a really good mango, like is really hard to beat. Japanese sweet potatoes. I mean, I finally figured out how to like ace eggplant. If you don't know how to cook it, it's going to be disgusting. You learn how to cook that,
Oh, big time.
it's like incredible. So, it's all about figuring out like it's like setting yourself up for success, right? If you start with like a really good ingredient, your final outcome, as long as you have like the preparation methods down and like figuring out what flavors pair. I mean, I'm so lucky that that I have an aunt that, she taught me about spices and herbs and like what flavors go. So I feel so confident in the kitchen throwing random things together because if I'm making a peanut sauce and I don't have like the proper type of lime, I can what other acids can I bring in? What other like spices can I bring in? If I don't have maple, can I make like a date puree? Like what other sweeteners can I toss in there? What like aromatics can I make something delicious so I don't have to like make it sodium laden? So yeah, food is very much a love language.
See, I told you all Alice was an expert chef. We just got the proof right there. She's using words like aromatics, what other type of acids can we use? So over my head, but that's why whenever you cook for me, I'm always so stoked about it. Um,
Oh,
and
that's
yeah, like so much to go on there. But that in season component, that's also why I think our like monthly fiber guide does
yeah,
so well on TikTok. We're getting hundreds of thousands of views. Like people love to know what's in season, how much fiber does it have, how much protein does it have, and just access to those resources. So, at the beginning of the month, we always put out our monthly fiber guide.
yeah,
And this month, apricots are in season, like
yeah,
strawberries are in season. So I've been picking those up. And when I was making that Is It High in Fiber video for apricots, the first time I tried to do the video, I ate all the apricots while I was filming and I wasn't able to finish it.
oh, that's funny.
I had to buy a new box of apricots because they were
Nice.
so good.
That's
Um, and yeah, it's like absolutely delicious. So like as I was making that, I had to like force myself to not continually
oh,
consume them. Like, all right,
I
keep a
get it.
few. You need to have this bowl plate or this
Oh
bowl
yeah.
together.
I mean, my way of eating a watermelon, I cut the watermelon in half and I eat it with a spoon. Like there's no
Oh, for
way.
sure.
Like what? Or I mean, like I don't know what it's like to eat one piece of fruit. Like if the nectarines
It's
are like
impossible.
popping, I'll eat five nectarines. Are you kidding me? The sky's the limit. My mom used to buy 25-pound bags of oranges and buy three at a time when she was pregnant with me. We're little fruit
Yeah.
over here.
Oh, 100%. And I didn't know that there was a thing like having a berry budget for kids because, my daughter just like crushes strawberries,
Yeah.
blueberries, blackberries, raspberries.
Oh yeah.
And these are like, you mentioned earlier, like getting the privilege to have such a diverse option of food available. And I think we're kind of on different sides of the spectrum there because I just didn't experience that. It wasn't a common thing. Like my fruits at home were apples and bananas,
Totally.
and that was like the range of fruits. And I didn't even know that the ripe, like how a banana was supposed to ripen, because we
Oh
always
yeah.
ate them underripe, just for
Oh
whatever
yeah.
reason. That was how my family liked them, for whatever reason. It said like, oh, if it has any speckles or like brown spots on it, done.
Yeah. Whereas for in my family, it was always like once they get the speckles, that's when you throw them in the freezer. And you have like unlimited amounts of bananas for smoothies. And then as I grew into an adult, nice cream. Throw some frozen
Oh
bananas
my
into a
gosh.
high speed blender. If you want chocolate, add some cacao powder, maybe a little bit of cinnamon, maybe some like pecans and some maple. Like there's so many ways to do it, but Yeah, and that's why, like, if you're thrusting that responsibility onto the individual or the family, like, that's really not fair. Like, whether there's like the time restriction, the financial restriction, the knowledge gap. Like, not everyone is taught about food, and that's why it's so important to like put these practices in play um, in schools. It really has the ability to affect so many more kids. And I'm grateful that I got to have the experience that I had, and I can play with food and you know feed my friends.
Well, I know I appreciate it, and we're gonna have to take that banana and ice cream recipe and put it in the next fiber-rich meal guide.
Oh gosh.
Um, yeah, it's gonna be awesome. So, one of the things that I did want to mention is like with regards to the Illinois pilot training
Yep.
and the expanding food options through these different upon request legislations. I think that the training itself and empowering folks to like you experienced growing up, getting a chance to have someone teach you, how to use different spices, how to prepare ingredients, how to make these things. Not to say that, food service directors aren't vastly educated on this stuff. They get into a routine of cooking the same things over time. And as new food environment, as we think about like what would be an ideal food environment for nutrition security in our, public institutions, that training is so essential because it requires a different prep method from the start of procuring the ingredient all the
Yeah.
way up into serving it. So there's a vast amount of training, and I'm just so grateful that our team can provide that. And
Totally.
I think our donors are seeing that over time, and our supporters are seeing that over time. We're continuing to get successes. We're continuing to impact on a massive scale, and people want to support that over and over and over. So, do you want to talk about our like sustainable donor program?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's it's wild how much impact sustainers have. Our donors and our supporters are just like incredibly important. We would not be able to do the meaningful work that we do without them. You would not be talking about fiber all over the internet. We would not be releasing a fiber rich meal guide. Michelle would not be able to go into schools and provide like education and nutrition lessons to both students and food service teams. Maddie would not be doing her data analysis work and her nutrition policy work. Andrea would not be able to be focusing on, expanding advocacy efforts. And the truth is, like, sustainers make it so much easier for an organization like ours to like budget appropriately. It's kind of, like thinking about personal finance, right? Like, if we're getting a paycheck, we know how much like budget for in advance, right? And so sustainers just like are a building block of financial health for our organization, where we get to plan in advance. How are we going to expand our resources and our teams and our projects? And really, it's an effective way, from the donor end as well, to just like provide ongoing support, to quote unquote, I hate saying this phrase, like set it and forget it. Like, we live in a subscription reality these days, right? And sometimes if you don't put it on the calendar, or set it on like an auto pay thing, you forget to make that donation or to make that purchase. And what a good thing to invest in: children's nutrition, a healthier next generation to do remarkable things. I can't think of anything more important.
Yeah, I feel that as well. And that's one of the things I'm so grateful to get the opportunity to do this work. And I'm grateful for all our supporters who believe in our mission and who believe in our team and want nutrition security to be at the forefront of the conversation for a healthy future, and making sure that food environments have ideal health outcomes and that we can start to see a decline in the rate of these diseases in children that are going to have negative impacts for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, Audrey, I feel like, is the container of all facts. She retains them wildly. And one thing that she has shared time and time again is that this generation of kids, they very well might live shorter lives than their parents, which is going to they'll be the first generation in a long time for that to be the case. And I'm not a parent yet, but I hope my kid gets to have like the healthiest, happiest life ever.
Yeah, I think that's what every parent wants for their kids. And whether it's, time constraint, resource constraint, knowledge constraint, some folks just don't get the opportunity to do that. And when people choose to support balance, they know that we got those things covered. You can just set it and forget it. We're going to be out here until this victory is won. We're never going to stop. We're going to be here as long as it takes to make sure that kids have access to the best and most nutritious food environments that are possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, couldn't say it better myself.
In your perspective, why is now such a critical time for people to support balance? Why should they care about nutrition security at this time?
Now is such a critical time for people to support balance and to truly care about nutrition security and school food in general. I mean, with the current administration, there are so many programs and resources that are under threat, whether those are federal programs and agencies like USDA or the National School Lunch and Breakfast Programs. Um, there's there's a threat to credible nutrition science. There's a threat to school meals as we know it. Like there's just like so much at stake, and we're very privileged, especially at this juncture in time when there are nonprofits that are reliant on federal funding that they've already been promised that is being revoked. And we're lucky that we are not reliant on federal funding, but with fewer funding opportunities and more programs that are going to be in need, this is a really good time to double down on investing in a healthier future for these kids.
Yeah, and for those listening, if you have the means to be able to help out, donating to balance is something I would highly recommend. Totally biased in the position, but the track record of our work really speaks for itself. And as funding sources become unstable for many institutions, they're going to have to make cuts somewhere in the budget. And at the end of the day, the kids are going to be the ones who are at the short end of the stick on this one. Like, they're the ones who are going to take the impact of this from an administration that claims to want to, protect kids and protect families. Cutting $1 billion from funding for school meals in public institutions, that does not fall in line. So groups like ours are absolutely imperative to support as the time goes on, because we have the knowledge, we have the expertise, we have the connections to be able to help out these schools in whatever situation they're in. So I'm just very grateful for everyone who has supported balance, who continues to support balance, and from just my mom donating to some of our larger
Thank
funders as
you.
well. Like,
Thanks, Mom.
we're so grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are many reasons why people support balanced mission. I mean, diet related diseases truly impact every single one of us, whether it is directly in our own personal lives or if it is a loved one. And I think people are starting to get it, right? Like, we're having more conversations, like societally, where diet and its impact are at the forefront of our minds. And that's why I'm so excited about Focus on Fiber and having fiber as the through line of all of our programmatic work, because by focusing on fiber, you're getting it in more fruits, more veggies, more whole grains, more legumes, more beans. And those are the types of things that are going to make sure that you have a healthier, longer, more satisfied life. And so seeing that on an institutional level where we can enact as much change as possible, especially with K through 12 schools, and supporting those students and those teams that are feeding them is so motivating and inspiring to the people that do support us.
Yeah, and the public health benefit overall for us as a country. I mean, every 34 seconds, someone dies from cardiovascular disease.
Yeah.
The rate of cardiovascular disease is dramatically increasing. It costs like $418 billion in the United States. I don't mean to laugh. It's just such a ridiculous number.
Yeah.
The cost that heart disease has on us as a society, and these habits start when we're young. The
Yeah.
cholesterol builds up over time, and cardiovascular disease is by far one of the biggest killers and responsible for 1 in every 3 deaths in the United States. We're seeing, like you mentioned with your friend earlier, from the health check with the childhood rates of high cholesterol. And when you have eating habits and behaviors and patterns that start when you're young, there is a dramatically high likelihood that they continue into adulthood
Yeah.
and, just end up with negative consequences. So the nutrition security element, the food environment element of our work is really a public health crisis that we're trying to fix, because the public health crisis is sort of like the lagging indicator. But whereas like childhood diabetes increasing, high cholesterol are more the leading indicators, and we see that those are increasing as a result of the environment that kids are in. So it's dramatically wild how much this impacts everyone, because everyone has a aunt or an uncle who has had a heart attack. It's
Yeah.
so common to hear about it. And like 1 in 20 adults have a coronary artery disease. Just a few months ago, my mother even discovered 50% blockage
Yeah.
in one of her heart valves.
Yeah.
It affects all of us. And if we can make an impact and create a future where the instances of these things are lower, that just seems like a no-brainer, and definitely something we should be supporting.
Right. I mean, if you think about it, it's more quality time with people you love doing the things you love to do. I mean, like, and I think about it, like, my dad has like such a small palate. Like, he lives on a fast food as a low income senior who's disabled. And, in the last couple of years, like, whether it's his stroke this year or his heart attack the year before last, like, those lifestyle factors really do catch up. And, at the end of the day, I'd rather have more time with my dad, and I'd hope that he would too. But you have to create the systems to make sure that the choices are available.
Yeah, and those systems are getting created. We're empowering teams to put those systems in places. We're empowering individuals with public education through our Focus on Fiber campaign, and we're doing the best we can.
And the thing, and honestly, could not be more proud about our team.
I mean, just thank you so much for coming on to chat about the work that you do. I loved talking about food together. I can't wait to go eat lunch. I am gonna try something from one of our fiber rich meal guide.
Amazing.
But what's one thing that people can do to help balance today? How can they support us?
People can really help out by supporting us with a donation, whether that is a one time gift or preferably an ongoing sustaining gift. So, giving on a monthly basis. That ongoing work will fuel our programmatic work, putting more plants on plates and making sure that we put health back on the menu.
Perfect. Well, that sounds super fantastic. Another thing, if you're on social media, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever you're at, we're there putting out content. And yeah, we're just going to keep doing the thing. We're going to keep crafting nutritious food environments and making sure that kids get the healthiest options possible. So super grateful for you, Alice. And yeah, just let's keep on doing this.
We're going to do the thing. I'm so excited. I could not be more proud of our team. So, thank you for this, Chris. I hope you have a delicious and nutritious day.
Yeah, thanks. Talk to you later.
Bye.